Hello and welcome to your OutCan US posting. This 15-minute presentation on what you can expect if you are moving to Hampton Roads, Norfolk, or Williamsburg is to help ease you into the transition to OutCan US. Please feel free to pause the presentation at any time if you'd like to take a screenshot or if you'd like to write down any information. Also, please note that the presentation will always be available on YouTube and the CAF Connection website. I hope you are excited about this posting opportunity as there's so many things to do and see in the Hampton Roads area. Please keep an eye out for the I wish I knew type points. These points have been gathered from fellow Canadians after settling into the Hampton Roads area in hopes of easing your transition and the transitions of future Canadians. That said, every posting to the US is different and your circumstances may not be specifically discussed here. You can always check in with the CDLS Washington admin staff or with your local MFS representative if you have any questions. So let's get started. Situated in the middle of the east coast of the United States, Virginia was the location of the very first permanent settlement by the English in 1607. The land, though, was originally home to the Cherokee, Powhatan, Manahoac, and several other Native American tribes. The surrenders ending both the American Revolution in Yorktown and the Civil War occurred in Virginia. The Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel Complex is quite an engineering accomplishment, and it was one of the world's longest prior to the opening of new construction in China. It is a 17.6 mile or 28.3 kilometer trip across the bay, which saves about 153 kilometers of travel if you were to go around the bay. The subject of a beloved children's book, the Chincoteague wild ponies have roamed Chesapeake Island for centuries. Evidence strongly suggests that they are the descendants of survivors of a Spanish galleon which wrecked off the coast of Chesapeake up here. This visual, slightly blurry, sorry, of the geography of Virginia, you can see how vastly different the areas are, from flat, tidal, and marshy areas around the Chesapeake Bay to the Blue Ridge Mountains, which are along here. Virginia region covers about 110,000 square kilometers and over 30 bases, installations, military colleges, and D&D liaison locations. For this recording, we'll focus mainly on the bases and posting locations in the immediate vicinity of Hampton Roads in southeast Virginia. And those bases include Oceana, Dam Neck, Portsmouth, Langley Air Force Base, and Norfolk Naval Base. You may also be posted to other smaller locations in the area. If you're posted to Washington, D.C., the Pentagon, Marine Corps Base Quantico, please check out our Washington, D.C. recording. Similarly, if you're screening for or have been posted to Paxton River, please check out our Pax River Living In video on our CAF Connection website. A few things to note about the Hampton Roads area. There are about 1.8 million people living in the Hampton Roads area, with many military and government establishments scattered across the region. The area has many bridges and tunnels and beaches and so much water, so many bays and rivers and lakes in the area. It makes for a beautiful place to live, but it can also cause problems with traffic and with flooding. Schools in the area will offer Spanish as their second language instead of French, and there are no French schools in the area. Students who study French or French immersion will be attending English public schools, and they may be eligible for French tutoring reimbursement. Contact your Children's Education Administrator section at CDLS Washington to ask how this would affect your family. Second language training opportunities are also available to spouses and dependents. And as mentioned before, with so much coastline, you can count on some fantastic beaches and parks with the Outer Banks just a short drive away down here in North Carolina. There are many parks, concerts, and cultural events in the area, and the Virginia Aquarium is a wonderful place to visit. There are many restaurants and boating opportunities, and the base locations are kind of spread across the region, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. So let's briefly discuss a few areas Canadians live in and work. Firstly, working, we have Oceana Naval Air Station here. Norfolk base is about here, Portsmouth. We also have the Langley Field Air Force Base up here as well. And the Williamsburg area is further up to 64. So there's lots of different areas. Williamsburg has a smaller population. It's situated in between Norfolk and Richmond on Highway 64, north of Hampton Roads, and it's slightly west. Colonial Williamsburg is part of the historic triangle of early America: Jamestown, Yorktown, and Williamsburg. And it's packed with historic buildings and attractions, much like Upper Canada Village, if you've been there, or other historical settlements in Canada. You can also visit Busch Gardens, which is kind of over here. And there are many festivals and events to check out, or you can just wander the historical area and check out a historic tavern with hearty colonial fare for a meal. Like Hampton Roads, there is very little French spoken in the Williamsburg area, but you may hear some Spanish. Hampton Roads area, as I said, is very spread out and punctuated by waterways and bridges throughout. The circled area, kind of in this Virginia Beach to Norfolk, Chesapeake area, is where most Canadians live, but it is often difficult to find suitable long-term rentals in the area. Because it's such a vacation destination, a lot of the full-time rentals tend to be switched to temporary rentals for vacationers. So it is hard to find a place, but there are good rentals in the area. Our families are located across Hampton Roads, with about 10 families living in the Norfolk area of Ocean View. Some families choose to live as far south as Chesapeake, closer to the North Carolina border and the Great Small Swamp. And some prefer to live closer to Virginia Beach, which is more touristy, but of course you have the beach and the boardwalk to walk along. Right here is where, at the X, is where Naval Station Norfolk is located. One thing to note, to watch for low-lying areas when you are looking at homes. I know this is harder on a virtual house hunting trip. Also watch for hurricane evacuation routes, as because of all of the different waterways, there are a lot of traffic choke points, and a lot of areas are subject to flooding, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So I'm just going to highlight a few of the local bases that families tend to go to for services here. Note, a lot of this information is available for whatever base you're posted to on mybaseguide.com. So just go to My Base Guide and then type in whatever location you're posted to, and you can get a full actual guide made for your location. And it has all of the different facilities, and most of the base guides also have a map. They're a little harder to find. You have to kind of flip through the actual kind of PDF, but it is there. So this is Naval Air Station Oceana, where a lot of the family or military members work. There is an exchange here and a commissary, and a military treatment facility for healthcare on base. is kind of central to the peninsula area. This is Little Creek Fort Story. As you can see, it is right on the beach. And there is a commissary and a Navy exchange here. Families can use the beach here, and it's very beautiful and a little bit quieter. There are a couple of facilities to eat in and a couple other shops and golf courses. And I believe there is a marina here as well that can be used. So just another option. So Naval Station Norfolk, it is actually the largest naval station in the world, and it does have a large commissary and exchange. Many Canadians tend to go elsewhere to use their commissary and exchange just because Naval Station Norfolk is a little bit further from where Canadians live. And many of the smaller bases here provide medical and pharmacy services and shopping, so they go closer to home. Portsmouth is where the Naval Hospital is, and it provides inpatient and outpatient care for families and military members. As mentioned, it's home of the NATO base where most Canadians posted to Hampton Roads, work. CDLS Washington in Washington, D.C. is your admin support unit, but most Canadians tend to work here, not Oceania. So moving to a different country, even one that seems very similar to Canada, as you see on TV and that sort of thing, it's not without its challenges. Please remember that there will be significant differences in many areas of what you would call normal day-to-day life. These are big issues, and they deserve detailed attention and explanations, which this particular presentation will not go into. You can find more information on the CAF Connection website, and also look through the MFS US Frequently Asked Questions documents, which are also found on the CAF Connection website for more detailed information. One quick note about base access. You'll need to talk to your sponsor to assist you with access to the bases in Hampton Roads. Please be patient and please follow the checklist you're given, as this is the tried and true way to get base access with minimal frustration. It will be surprising to go on base your first time, as the bases are much more heavily guarded and the MPs are heavily armed. Do not let this deter you. Your US base is your base, and Canadians are entitled to most of the services that their US counterparts are. So please do try to get your base access as soon as possible and try to get on base. If you are planning to have a baby in the US, please check out the Frequently Asked Questions documents on CAF Connection. There are significant implications for these children as they become adults, with regards to the draft and that sort of thing. And also obtaining paperwork for Canadian citizenship can be challenging while out can, especially now in a virtual world. I'll talk about education on the next slide. Note that childcare on base is very limited. The MWR childcare is generally not accessible to Canadians because of the long wait list, and the US serving members with specific circumstances tend to be at the top of the list. Please also keep in mind that CAF members are paid in Canadian dollars, which is then changed into US dollars. So exchange rate fluctuations and considerations are very important when you're considering coming to the US. Healthcare is discussed in great detail on the CAF Connection website. There are many differences, and each location and family will have a different healthcare plan and different access to military treatment facilities on base. So please watch these videos. They're done by our medical staff here who have researched and also review any of the frequently asked questions before arriving in the US. Tax-wise, there are no Canadian Armed Forces tax experts in the US. You will be responsible to file your own taxes while in the US. And this can be very complicated for those who work on the economy in the US, so spouses. So please keep this in mind. Free local services on US bases may or may not have all the latest information for Canadians posted to the US, and your family may find it helpful to actually hire an accountant that specializes in cross-border tax, which can be an expense. So consider that as you consider working. A few more specifics that I really want to highlight for Virginia specifically. Schools in the US teach math very differently, and almost all students struggle at first with their system because schools here teach math in subjects like geometry, algebra, trigonometry, and there can be large gaps in learning in high school students because they haven't gotten the chunk approach, they've gotten the full math approach. If you have students in high school, they will have issues in math, so I highly recommend you do some preparatory tutoring before they start school. Be prepared for a short, hopefully lived fall in grades at first. Some tutoring costs can be reimbursed within the first year of schooling with certain guidelines. And like I said, the good thing to note is that most students do rebound quickly, so keep that in mind. Another difference, as I've noted, is that schools here tend to have Spanish as their second language, not French, and there's no French immersion schools in the Hampton Roads area. Gun laws, American gun laws are very, very different from Canadian, and they vary from state to state. In Virginia, you're allowed to open carry weapons, and so you may actually see weapons on people out in public. You can also have a permit to carry a concealed weapon in Virginia. It's not uncommon also for American families to have loaded guns accessible within their homes. So please talk to your children about this before you arrive and before they head over to a friend's house. Ask current members who live in the area that you're planning to live in, what traffic is like because of the bridges and because of the choke points I was mentioning before. And also check on like a Google Maps directions during rush hour if you're doing a virtual house hunting trip, just to see the differences. And again, currently during COVID times, there may be less traffic than normal, so there may be differences in future years. So Virginia is very hot and muggy in the summer. It has beautiful fall temperatures, but the strong thunderstorms in the summertime can cause a flooding risk because a lot of water falls in a very short period of time. Some of these storms can be strong enough to spin off tornadoes, and tornadoes have been known to touch down in the region, and there's lightning damage as well. Trees may fall, and as I said, flash flooding. It's very hot, very humid. You will want air conditioning down here, and there is sometimes snow. To further on this, be aware of the implications of flooding when it comes to insurance, and you're going to need to have flood insurance with your tenant policy in the Hampton Roads area. Hampton Roads is right here, and as you can see, it is in the path of some Atlantic region hurricanes. And there's been an increase in hurricane activity in the past few years. Although the wind is destructive, most hurricanes, hurricane-related injuries and deaths are the result of storm surge and flooding, not wind. So please, please be wary of low-lying areas and keep evacuation routes in mind when searching for a home. If there's water on the road, please find another route. Review your evacuation routes regularly and watch for any evacuation orders from the chain of command. should a hurricane be heading your way. And note, tornadoes can also spin off from these hurricanes, so this can be a risk. And lastly, as I mentioned before, there is a risk of snow. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it creates big issues, especially traffic-wise, because it happens so infrequently. Driving is a little bit treacherous as people here are not used to having snow on the roads. While you're posted to the U.S., our goal as Military Family Services is to provide you and your family with the support and information we have to help make this posting the best it can be. And we hope to ease this transition between Canada and the U.S. and to help you settle and thrive in your new community. Our programs and services are developed or identified in the community to meet the needs of Canadian Armed Forces families posted to the U.S. Our services include welcome, orientation, and support as you transition, providing opportunities to establish support networks, ensuring you're aware of and supported through your challenges, whether it be providing information and referral and support as you go through these challenges, and helping you get connected, especially related to any problems or challenges related to illness, injury, or crisis situations. If there's something we can do to help ease your transition, please let us know. This is the local Military Family Services Coordinator contact information. MFS Washington looks after the Hampton Roads area. Once you have your posting message, if you don't already, please contact the MFSC and they'll be happy to add you to the secret Facebook group and connect you with families in the Hampton Roads area. And we'll also add you to our local email distribution list so you can start receiving our news and programs and local information. Thank you so much for watching. We hope this helps a small amount to prepare you for your posting to Hampton Roads and the National Capital Region in Virginia, DC, and Maryland. The area has so much to offer, and Southern Virginia is a wonderful posting opportunity. You'll discover that we have a strong, supportive Canadian community in the area, and we look forward to welcoming you. Have a wonderful posting season.